Hello, Kim Dodsworth, Queensland storyteller. Now, Elizabeth M. Thompson of Grovedale, Victoria, has contributed to our program before, back in 2004. We admired her work then, so you can imagine our delight when she approached us again just a few weeks ago with a story which we consider a perfect example of the short story writer's art. It's called Tickets, Please. Heavy fog makes the air feel like a damp sponge, settling onto everyone's faces and hands as they hurry to the platform clutching bags and tickets. The swirling mist has made the trip to the town's rail station slow and hazardous. Many have arrived, flustered and breathless, worried they might miss the 6:30 a.m. train to Melbourne. A weak glimmer of sunshine spreads a creamy glow across the haze as the whistle sounds and the lumbering machine drags the carriages away from the grimy platform and makes its way around the long, wide curve leading out of town. Everyone in the carriage relaxes into their seats with relief. Some hope by the time they reach the city in 2 hours, the sky will be clear and the day warmer. A murmur of friendly chatter grows. They come from a small community and many know each other, if only by sight. A stockily built woman brushes her skirt over her knees, trying to keep it from creasing. She is reluctantly travelling to have lunch with her socialite sister, who insists on the same posh hotel each time. Their husbands never come. She wonders once again if this twice-yearly trek is as much of an ordeal for her sister as it is for her. She begins to steel herself for the disapproving comments and oblique fault-finding in which the older woman habitually indulges, and sighs deeply, knowing there'll also be a great deal of gratuitous advice given to her today. Benalla Station flashes by as they leave the mountains behind and gradually descend to the undulating hills of central Victoria. The children of a young couple attract her attention as they wriggle with excitement. They're going to the zoo, their mother explains. It's a holiday outing, and the parents, loaded up with bags of snacks and drinks, try to keep the children quiet. Their eyes meet across blonde and curly heads, and indulgent smiles pass between them. The mother takes some books from a carry bag and reads. Slowly the children become quiet as their collective interest and attention is fixed on her face and voice. An old lady, dressed in a heavy coat and small lilac mohair hat, sits quietly in her corner seat. She's going to have lunch with her daughter. It seems such a long time since they've seen one another. Her crinkled face is alive with excitement, and she peers out at the countryside, with the cattle grazing in paddocks which recent rains have helped turn a lush green. She and her husband have been farmers, and the land tells her much as she flits by. A young man nervously shuffles about in his seat, checking the address of the place he must get a taxi to take him. He looks at the letterhead of the company he hopes to work for, and wants desperately to make a good impression. Yesterday he had his hair cut, bought a new shirt, and his mum ironed his suit, the whole time chatting optimistically to him about his bright future. Glancing at his reflection in the window, he feels reassured. His stomach churns with tremors of apprehension, and he begins to recite over in his head all the questions and answers he expects to receive and give. A young woman he knows sits opposite and is looking at a list of things she is going to buy. She has saved for weeks for this shopping spree. Her wedding is planned for the spring, and she leans back in her seat, dreamily watching the cars on the freeway which travels parallel with the train tracks in this area. Her long legs and fine-boned hands have been noticed by a man seated diagonally opposite. After catching sight of her and watching her mother kiss her goodbye, he bought his ticket. "Be careful, I'll see you this evening," the mother called to the departing back of her daughter. He recognized his chance. 3 times he has travelled along this line waiting for another victim. His fingers roll the nylon binding twine in his pocket and twitch in anticipation with thoughts of the softness of her skin. She won't be missed for hours. The rhythm of the wheels set up a beat of words in his head. She will not be missed. She will not be missed. Over and over it drums through his brain, becoming louder as they near the outskirts of the city. She will not be missed. A backpacker slouches across a couple of seats. He sleeps soundly. He walked miles yesterday without any lift. Not even a truck stopped. Exhaustion has driven him to spend some of his dwindling money on the ticket to get him back to the city where he has friends. "Tickets, please," comes the familiar call as the train nears the Melbourne Transit Station. Everyone begins searching for tickets, which have become lost among lolly papers, handkerchiefs, tissues, shopping lists, and binding twine ties. 8:30 p.m. The train arrives back at the village station. It's late evening, and the clear sky is dotted with millions of stars in a black arc over their heads. There'll be a frost tonight. The sigh of the brakes coincides with the sighs of the passengers. "At last," one or two say aloud. The children who have been to the zoo are woken by their parents. They whine and grizzle as they are carried and led out of the warm carriage into the cold. "I'm tired, Mummy," the smaller girl whimpers. "I know, darling. We'll be home soon," she soothes. "Urr! Urr!" The little boy yells, imitating the lions he has seen earlier. The night air has woken him up, and he pokes his sister in the ribs. After more bickering and whimpering, their parents whisk them away. The still air carries the children's voices back to their fellow travellers. The young man helps the old lady down from the carriage. He recognises her as a customer from the shop where he works in the village. "Have you enjoyed your day, Mrs. Fenton?" "Oh, yes," she replies wistfully, dutifully. "It was lovely to see my daughter." She nods again, but cannot help picturing her impatient daughter constantly checking her watch. She didn't tell her of the doctor's test results. There's nothing her daughter can do about them. In between naps on the way home, she has wondered how many more months it'll be before she sees any of her family again. "Yes, very nice," she repeats sadly. Old Mrs. Fenton passes the blonde girl's mother standing alone on the platform, anxiously looking for her daughter, and realises the young woman hadn't been in the carriage on the return trip. The young man is dishevelled and feels grimy from the city air. He's filled with indecision and plods down the footpath to his home, wondering what to say to his parents and friends. He's been offered the job, but now, after a day in the city pollution, his head aching, he isn't sure he wants it. The feeling of tension amongst the employees and the stressful life he can see ahead of him makes him dither. Does he really want the change? He asks himself. The woman who met her sister for lunch breathes the sweet air of her town as she puts the key in the car ignition. She has listened politely to how well her sister's children are doing and heard some salacious gossip about the city's smart set. People she only knows of from pictures in the papers. The new jewels on her siblings' fingers sparkled under the dining room lights, but nothing hid the loneliness and hurt in the mascara-laden eyes. "Poor thing," she sighs as a wave of pity washes through her. "Home," she sighs again, smiling. The backpacker lies on a hospital trolley waiting for the doctors. He is bruised and cut, but he knows nothing is broken. His friends are no longer in the house he went to. Instead, he was mugged by the people who were there and his belongings distributed amongst his attackers. He feels desperately alone and vulnerable. His youthful trust in others has been shaken. The adventure has ended for him. In a neat, warm home, a distraught mother sobs as the local police constable holds her hands. Her daughter's body has been found. She never got to go shopping, but she will always be missed. That was Tickets Please by Elizabeth Thompson, whom we thank for another fine contribution to our listening pleasure. I'm Kim Dodsworth.